I think a lot of
Yeah.
people have questions about how this works in terms of payment and if it's a real thing. So, were you making a decent living in
Yeah.
Palm Beach with this other gentleman?
Honestly, no, because I was a junior stu, I was earning the lowest, and we weren't like a heavy charter yacht. So it wasn't great money, but it was just entry level, if that
Okay.
makes sense.
And then when
Yeah.
you're going on this show, I think, my question is like, we all see you get tips at the end, but are you
Yeah.
actually being paid separately, like you're working a 9 to 5 job? Like, how does that work? Like, explain that.
Yes. So you do get a base salary and then you get your tip money.
Right. So I think that's interesting because that's different than reality shows because you're one of the few shows where you're actually working. I mean, it's not acting.
Yeah.
I mean, part of it is,
No.
acting in your scene or whatever, but you
Yeah.
really are working and have to, do all the
Yeah.
extracurricular things, but like you have to do a real job.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, we're busting our ass. That's why I look disheveled half the time because we're actually working.
Right.
So
So they're not starting you off in hair and makeup every morning.
no, and I think, and it's interesting because I feel like people think that they do, and people's like, "Oh my god, why does this person's hair look like this?" I'm like, "I am so sorry, but I'm sweating my tits off.
Mhm.
Okay, I am exhausted. I have bags under my eyes. Like, I wish I had hair and makeup sitting next to me every single morning, but I don't because this is
Right.
a real job.
Right.
So
Okay. And what was that
otherwise,
like?
I would look like
Well, you're beautiful, so you look good all the time. But, I know what you mean. It's not a good
that.
feeling when you don't get that extra oomph. So what was
Yeah.
it like the first day you showed up? Did you know who was gonna be on the show with you, or do they surprise you?
No, I had no idea. They always surprise you.
And were you aware
I
of the
had
cast of some of the cast members when you walked on that boat and you saw who was there?
my first one. No, my first season I didn't. My second season I did.
Okay. So
Yeah.
let's talk about your first season just for a second. You were with some pretty high
Mhm.
profile people. You were with Captain Jason, correct? And Aisha, how do
Mhm.
you pronounce her name? I never get it right.
Aisha.
Aisha, right. How was your experience that first year? Is your first year on TV? It's your first year doing, this kind of job and getting filmed doing it. And it was a step up, I'm assuming, from being on one gentleman's private yacht to a yacht that has turnover every week. So talk about the difference there.
Yeah. I absolutely had a blast my first season.
Good.
That was the most incredible experience. I don't even have one awful or bad thing, or I just I loved it. I really did love it a lot. And it would also, I think it was the perfect bunch of people to start this journey with, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
And we all genuinely had a good time with each other, and that's why sometimes I think you don't see much drama because it was just so much fun. I still stand by that. I really had a great time on first season.
Let's talk about some of the misconceptions that people don't understand about the show. For example, guests really pay. It's funny, they called me and asked me a couple times if I wanted to be a guest on one of these shows. And people don't
Yeah.
realize this is like a paid
Yeah.
appearance, but at the same time, the guests are expecting five-star service from you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you're really fulfilling 2 roles. I mean, you're trying to have a storyline, but at the same
Yeah.
time, you're fulfilling a real need for guests that are there on a real trip.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what people, you're right. That's what people don't realize is that when they're paying so much for this, I'm a real yachty. So I take it seriously. And I know that if I'm going to invest a lot of money into something, I expect a service. So if
Mhm.
I have high standards, well, yes, I have high standards because they're paying an exuberant amount of money.
Yeah.
So it's like that's what I expect from my team. That's what I expect from everyone.
Yeah.
So yeah, that misconception, sometimes people get a bit confused because
Right.
I'm pretty sure you wouldn't be okay if your bed wasn't made at a certain time or if your towels weren't picked up from the floor. It's like, come on.
Yeah. Well, of course.